So today I have a question for you, and really it's a question for me that I'm trying to figure out how to answer for myself. What do you do when people that you really love, really care about, give you a gift that you don't really want? That's the subject of what we're talking about today with The Last Dive. Halfway astray, decluttering at midlife here at this beautiful water feature. Water feature is a phrase that I didn't hear until about 10 years ago. Maybe it was around longer than that, but I've heard everything from a small fountain shooting up a little, poking up a little bit of water, being called a water feature, to something like this gigantic storm drain catchment pond being called a water feature as well. For example, right behind the camera, you can't see it, but there's a bunch of apartment buildings up here, condos, and I'm sure one of the great selling points and one of the reasons that they would charge a premium for their rent is to get one of these rental units that faces the storm drain catchment so that you can look out across the water and have some sort of idea that you're experiencing some beautiful view. You may have noticed by now that I'm pretty cynical about a lot of stuff. I'm working on that. I'm trying to get back to a place for myself where I can look at this water feature and say, you know, what a wonderful thing. You can see how far I got. Here's the bookmark. I made it to page 160. The thing is, this book is like incredibly depressing. It's one of these books that's true, you know, it's a true story, and it tells you the story of this father and the son and how into scuba diving they are, and like how it's like this, it creates this huge bond between them, and like they're really good at it, and they're like these amazing scuba divers. But you know, even from just the cover of the book, you know, I mean, just the title, The Last Dive, Father and Son's Fatal Descent into the Ocean's Depths. This book is like 350 pages long. And just from the title page alone, you know, at the end, the two main characters die. They die scuba diving. I don't know what it is that makes people want to read a book like this. I really don't. Certainly I understand why, for example, Shakespearean tragedies are still very popular today. You know, horrible tales of bad things happening to oftentimes bad people. But these plays and these sonnets have lasted for, you know, obviously hundreds of years because they're considered classic and amazing and they're so well crafted. On the other hand, something like this is like a true story of two people who I don't know personally, but who experienced a devastating tragedy in their lives and lost their lives while they were doing something they loved. In some ways, I feel like it's the same as the sorts of news stories that you see on the news where they'll tell some really long story about somebody who had something really awful happen to them. And you know at the front of a story, something really awful is going to happen to this person. And then you go through the whole history of who they are, where they came from, how they came to that point, maybe the lessons that they learned along the way, and then you come to the final part where the terrible thing happens to them. So for me, there's really nothing very enjoyable for me in this book. It'd be different, I think, if it was fictional. Like if these two characters were on some kind of really cool adventure and they were seeking some sort of treasure under the water, and then they found it, but then, you know, 3/4 of the way through, one of them dies, and then the other one tries to save the other one, and then he dies, and they both die. And that's the surprising twist ending, is that they found the treasure, but they both died, right? I feel like kind of a weird voyeuristic element also when I'm reading a book like this. Like, this is these people's real lives that has kind of just been turned into entertainment here for me. Or I don't know, it's not really even entertainment. It's just sort of like, let's suffer through this and feel bad for these people, and then it's over. I have a real problem where if I receive a gift from somebody, I feel this obligation. I feel really bad about, first of all, not accepting it, but second of all, then getting rid of it is very, very hard for me to do. I end up keeping these things for my whole life, basically, a lot of this stuff. But even though it hasn't been around as long, I have no intention of reading this book ever. Now, I will say that at one point in time, I was really looking for this bookmark. It's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's an old vintagey bookmark. And it has a picture of a squirrel on it. It says it's from 1980. Somebody's little line drawing of a little squirrel. And at one point in time, I was looking for this bookmark and I couldn't find it. Well, it turns out it's been sitting in The Last Dive all these years. So something really good has come out of this. I have reclaimed my little squirrel bookmark. which maybe I should tell the story of the squirrel bookmark someday too. This comes from someplace kind of special, so I'll tell the story of that maybe next time. So to the last dive, I say, this is your last dive in my office bookshelf.